Hi, my name is Matthias. I'm Halsey's guest for today. And prior to listening to the episode, I have to give you some additional information. My initial contact with the first LEGO League occurred in 2023 on a talent showcase at the school where my wife, Gabriele Höchstrunk, works as an arts teacher, where she fosters artistic talents through her KuKo Kunst Kooperation, an art cooperation project. Since then, I've successfully integrated my simulator in various art exhibitions and activities organized by that initiative. And through the support of friends and friendly people from the industry, that project really gained some momentum. I sparked enthusiasm for the subject among aerodynamics students and engineers through a presentation for the VDA, the Association of German Engineers. I connected with the general public at the Bad Nauheim Spielt Games Fair and entertained the families at a charity flying event supported or hosted by Kleine Helden, große Flügel e.V., meaning Little Heroes, Big Wings. About 10 months ago, I started taking down all the ideas of how to link aviation and helicopter industries with flight simulations, schools and LEGO robotic teams and the first LEGO League. May that paper inspire others like you to push the ideas forward. So listen and enjoy my very first podcast. And remember, a mind is like a parachute. It does not work if it's not open.
This episode of the Helicopter Podcast is made possible with the generous sponsorship from Instrom Helicopter and Metro Aviation. Welcome to the Helicopter Podcast, your go-to source for all things rotorcraft. I'm Halsey Schider, bringing you the stories, insights, and conversations from around the helicopter industry. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, a maintainer, or you're just passionate about helicopters, this is the podcast for you. What is happening, you guys? It's Halsey Schider with the Helicopter Podcast, and I'm excited to be back recording another edition of the podcast. Big shout out to MHM Publishing for giving us the HeliCASTS platform. We couldn't do what we're doing here with the podcast without your generous support. And of course, to all of our sponsors, we love your support and we love that you believe in the show. And my biggest shout out, of course, to the listeners. You guys are the most important part of this equation. And I'm just so grateful that you guys tune in every week, every Tuesday. So it's so cool. Today's guest is not actually a helicopter pilot. He's a dentist. And so we're going to talk everything about teeth cleaning. I'm actually getting veneers soon. That's a true story. I just had a Invisalign and now I have a misshaped front tooth. So I'm going to get canine to canine veneers. So we're going to talk everything about teeth. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to talk about that. But Matthias Wendt is joining the Helicopter Podcast. And yes, he's not a helicopter pilot, even though he's had many chances in life to potentially be a helicopter pilot. But Matthias is doing some really cool things to hopefully encourage the next generation of helicopter pilots, maintenance professionals. And he's doing this through STEM programs in Germany. And I don't fully understand it, to be honest. So that's why I'm excited to have Matthias on so he can tell us all about it. Matthias, all the way from Germany, welcome. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so nice to have you. I'm glad that we were able to get this to work out. Appreciate you making it happen for sure.
Yeah.
So, Matthias, you and I connected there at European Rotors this past year in Cologne, and you were chatting about what you're up to. But let's just start with a little bit of a background before we get into that on who you are. And also, interestingly enough, I think in some of the show notes, you mentioned that your mother's maiden name is Sikorsky.
No. The mom of my dad, his maiden name is Sikorsky. That is the first thing that connects me to helicopters. My dad, his grandfather, they were all teachers. My grandfather, my dad's dad, was also a shipbuilding engineer. So there's some technical and didactic background in my family. Mom is a tailor with some higher degrees. But we're all from a crafts background, I guess. So we never had a car in the garage that was worth to place it there. So we always had power drills and and workbenches there. So I grew up with lots of handcraft, and that led to the idea that I should pursue a career in some type of craft where I could see what I'm doing. My daily work is presented and is to some effort for some others, and that was quite a strong belief as I figured out writing my resume where I should talk about helicopters and my career in helicopters. And so I thought about, well, what hindered me to pursue a career? Because there were maybe 17 occasions where I could have stumbled onto helicopters, but it was so narrow-minded that never came to my mind. That never crossed my mind actually in a time frame where I could swap my businesses. Because after having a apprenticeship finished as a dental technician, after they refused me from the military service, that could have been one way into the to the flight path. But after that, swapping sides from the dental technician aspect to the dentistry aspect, and finishing my approbation as a dentist and working for 10 years, you're not swapping the sides then again, because you're too deep into it and you're 40 years old, and that's not the time to change an effective and a nice horse for you to take it out of the game.
Yeah, 100%. Right when you go down a pathway for a long time, and I'm guessing becoming a dentist is a lot of work and a lot of time. And at least here in the United States, it's a pretty good career. I know a lot of my friends are dentists, and it's a good career field. And in fact, a lot of my clients that end up buying, personal aircraft are dentists. So I always make a joke that, man, maybe I should have been a dentist, and then I could have just afforded a helicopter. But tell us kind of what you've been working on about getting the next generation excited about mechanics and helicopters and aviation as a whole.
I met a French army aviator, a retired helicopter pilot, and having some discussions and talks and friendly encounters with him, he mentioned one day when we visited a museum that there is a shortage upcoming, like 72 to 80,000 pilots missing, about 2032. And at that time, I was already building my helicopter rig, because I felt I was sucking flying the helicopter simulators at home, because they're not steering it precisely enough. So I thought, okay, this sounds somehow interesting, that it's such a tangible topic that is not having more attraction on people. And later on, a few years later, I met the Lego Robotics team coach of the school my wife works in. She's a teacher at school. I showed him my projects, and he said maybe we could join at the school, and if it's somehow liftable, you could show it to the kids. And so we did, and they were fascinated. I started to build a little presentation in PowerPoint about how a helicopter flies, and I started to dive deeper into it, because I'm not feeling fine doing some BS about stuff, some false information, because they just stick to people. And so I dove deeper into that subject, and something that was always on my mind, for example, was building a helicopter rotor head that you could actually put on, because I was somehow fascinated by how a swashblade works, and I was thinking maybe I could show up on that occasion with a helicopter rotor costume, or a rotor head rabbit hole that will never let you go again once you entered it. And it's amazing how I'm a very tactile person. If you consider VACOG, visual, auditive, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatoric, the five senses, I'm very much onto the kinesthetic and auditive side. I'm always thinking about how to make some phenomenons, make them tactilely accessible. And so I built that rotor head and put that one on, and all of a sudden some I call it post-its in my mind, where I read something about if a blade flaps up, it decreases the angle of incidence of the blade. Okay. So I thought, okay, we got flapping hinges on the arm. Our shoulder is quite optimal for that. And when I put on the this bizarre costume, I guess we could post some photos of it. Then I just felt it, how the angle of incidence was decreasing when I lift my arm. And if I turn around and somebody holds the Swass blade in one position, like horizontally, completely plane to the earth, and you rotate, and you got no change in angle of attack or angle of incidence. And if you just put it slightly oblique, diagonal in the space, and you turn, you can feel the hinges, the feathering hinges, move along your arm, and that's quite a fun thing to access first person perspective on a rotor head and the movements of a blade. And so you could even embody all that the stuff that you read, how a blade moves, how it catches up due to just angular preservation of angular momentum, and all that. That is something that you could just start to feel. That makes it easy to learn. And so we showed up with a simulator rig, the Mark I, just the setup. And from that day on, we had, well, the next invitation from another Lego League team that was in Houston, Texas, on the finals, and they also gained a medal for the best team effort and the best social values, which are highly appreciated in the Lego Robotics League. And so I presented it to the next team, and all of a sudden I was very much into traveling around with my Hawkers tray of a helicopter setup, and started to build a second similar helicopter rig that I could couple. And now I'm just traveling with a dual seats, dual control helicopter rig that I could just pack in the space wagon, Ford Focus combi, as we say.
Yeah, sure.
And that's quite nice to join events and to reach out to schools and see how kids react on it, and maybe get some ideas of doing helicopter workshops and helicopter simulator workshops to place them in the Lego robotic teams. Because the nice part of it is, if you place an idea like making something like a technical solution, go to a helicopter, try to measure out the scale of the pedals, the travel of the stick, and all that, and then you try to replicate it using, for example, Lego bricks and Lego Technic bricks. Then it's easy to produce it. You could just stick them together. If it's the wrong diameter, if it's the wrong leverage, and it's behaving not like you want it, you just tear it down. You just build it again. And that's so charming, because you got some nerdy guys spread all over the world. We're talking about 40,000 Lego robotic teams aged 9 to 16 years old, and they're craving for new topics to deal with, because the Lego Robotics team challenges, they just keep them busy for 6 months. So they got half of the year time to deal with something else. And you got some nerdy people that could be a multiplier for spreading it into other classes. And I think that's quite charming, because you enter quite into the population, into the peer group that you like to have. The one guy that is running the Mushmish team from that was representing Germany on 24ish, he's now asked for or designated by the Kultusministerium, saying the guys that run the plans for education in Hessen. I'm from Gießen, Frankfurt, close to Frankfurt. That's in the middle of Germany, Hessen. He's just saying that it's a no-brainer to go that route, because it's you got some new clients there that are eager to dive into programming, into designing, into mechanics, And that's an easy pathway to use all the Lego Robotics infrastructure. If you apply for the infrastructure and ask probably Lego for permission to use the spread out system to reach all the teams. But I think that's quite interesting to use that infrastructure that's already laid out and is also willing to do competitive stuff, and that keeps them on the toes.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So let me make sure I get this straight. So you passionate about flying a home simulator. I'm guessing
Yep.
something like a Microsoft flight simulator or something like that. And you wanted to create something more realistic for yourself.
To be sure that it's me who sucks. If
I guess my first question is like, how do you, because I'm guessing your actual helicopter experience is lower. I'm guessing you've flown a real helicopter.
8 hours and 15 minutes.
But who's counting, right? And and so how did you, just building your simulator, how did you know that you were, I guess rigging the system correctly to have it fly kind of similar to a real helicopter?
Thank you to our sponsor, Instrom Helicopter Corporation. Instrom Helicopter Corporation welcomes the new 480B Elite to its fleet, fully loaded with all the top-of-the-line features, including Garmin G500H, electric air conditioning, Genesis 3-axis autopilot, exclusive paint and interior, and more. 2025 delivery dates are available, but opportunities are limited. Secure your spot at instromhelicopter.com.
I'm using X-Plane for the school. DCS is a nice platform with the most advanced helicopter simulation. So that's not the problem. The problem is just to have a rig that is replicating the travel of the pedals, push and pull rods to communicate from the left to the right seat, and the rest is just geometry to make a little degree of stick deviation that makes a lot of travel at the height of your hand, to make that translate to a proper change in the magnetic field in front of a Hall sensor. The electronics you can buy, for example, in Leo Bodnar is a famous producer of input systems, or I bought them in Germany at a shop. And the idea was, I was thinking I need a substitute to the very expensive hobby to fly helicopters, which my first flight was in 2014. So I gathered the hilarious amount of 8 hours flight time within 12 years because it's quite expensive. So I thought I need something that is cheaper, that is it's fun to build. I mean, building sandcastles is more fun than playing on sandcastles. So actually, I tried to just build it because I got the experience in the R22 to the R44. I sat in Gazelle cockpits at the Musée Hélico-Alat in Dax, France. I've been to really good mock-ups of EC-135s. I've sat in BO-105 real helicopters. I sat in real cockpits of Hueys. So that's just giving me the idea. Or Denali, the last one was a clockwise rotating head, Denali H3. That just gives you an idea what's the trouble, for example, and you try to replicate it, and that's just the whole game. And this is quite manageable for youngsters with the assistance of, for example, workshops around town, and you could even access them and try to get into contact with local businesses and get deeper into some decisive moments where you could say, okay, that's something for me, or I just dump that occasion and go for university, for example. So that was just the idea.
It's neat. It's not me. I'm not like a tinkerer or a builder of things.
That's completely me.
It's just, yeah, I'm like, I just want to go and do it and fly, and understanding it honestly was never that important to me. And that might sound bad, but that's just like the way my brain works. But I also wasn't like involved in the Lego programs, growing up. And I'm guessing that maybe maybe if I started doing things, as a younger person where I was, meant to build things, then, maybe I would have more interest as an adult of kind of being more excited about, hands-on building and whatnot. I also do think that everyone works a little bit differently and everyone's brains kind of function different. So, different strokes for different folks. But you built the simulator for yourself. The idea of it being a tool specifically to help excite the next generation of youngsters, that was maybe more coincidence, or was that always the master plan?
No, there's actually no master plan at all. It was just designing my midlife crisis and just having something to play with, actually. No, the coincidence was that I was talking about helicopters when I'm. When my patients stay with me and I just babble on and tell some funny stories about the things I deal with. So I talk about helicopters and my helicopter experience at the Lego Robotics team at the school. I met a patient of mine who's a vice head of the school in Altenstadt, Hesse, and we talked about helicopters and all these projects that I have. And she said, Matthias, would you mind to show up on the 60th anniversary of the gymnasium of the I think it's grammar school. It's going up to the 13th grade. We're just lacking STEM because she's very much into physics. And so I showed up on the 60th anniversary of that school, and they had also a Fesselflug AG. They built model airplanes that are strapped to a wire, and the wire is attached to the guy who flies it. He stands on the center, like Circle Dancer's event, where they fly in the half dome, engine-driven airplane, and they steer it in the manner that they use steering. So it's just wires they fly it on. And so I thought that's a pretty good place to start. And the guy who runs the Lego Robotics team, the Lego Robotics classes of that school, sat for 1.5 hours straight in the back of the classroom where I just introduced kids to flying helicopters. And he was so fascinated about it that he just showed up afterwards and said, "Hey, Matthias, how about starting a helicopter simulator workshop?" And I said, I did not say that one. That's you saying it. And I thought, okay, let's give it a go. And reached out for a wind tunnel got the opportunity to get the kids, maybe seventh grade kids, to join us visiting a wind tunnel in Friedberg. And they were just showing up there, and they were glad. They brought their airplanes, and they just followed goose stepping the professor who showed them around, and that was just amazing. And just finding some spots that are of interest for others, just combining opportunities, skills. It's like maybe like a Amelie from Fabulous World of Amelie. I don't know if it's called like that. That is my job. I just see the opportunities, and that particular school has also a wood workshop, so that's a no-brainer for them to use their skills, their skill set, to produce, for example, for a project week, some setups that I'm trying to, yeah, tinker so that you could have maybe 10 rigs for kids, so they could have a foldable chair, just attach the stuff, and then they can go with a low budget or no budget simulator like Flight Gear, for example. Then it's maybe just an old laptop and it works.
Yeah, it's really cool. And what has the response been from the kids? Tell me what it's been like watching them and seeing them get excited about these helicopter simulators.
The point is, the mills, as we say in Germany, they work very, very slowly. So it's hard to get them. We just started last year. Then I had to move, so I was very out of this adrenaline rush to produce it. But whenever I show up at a place, it's like 8 hours straight of having people showing how to fly simulators. So they get very much into it. One occasion at the school in Hessen, at Altstadt, Hessen, was that a little girl just showed up, and she was completely mesmerized by that rig, and she just forgot all the people in the room that were standing in a circle when I tried to talk some aerodynamics, and she just walked over to the seat and just took a seat, and something got her. And that's just you gotta get the kids in contact with that. And some are very very into it. We had a arts weekend for Easter at the school of my wife, and I started my helicopter workshops. And some kids showed up. One girl, 70 years old, she wants to join the army or the Luftwaffe, wanted to fly helicopters. Also showed up in Bückeburg, of I think it was Fritzlar on a girls' day. And she, together with a 12-year-old, they flew so beautifully. They were so kind to each other because they sat next to each other and they were cheering each other up. And I just was able to sit in the back and just give some advice, and just heard them like a fly on the wall, and just recognized how nice it is to have women in aviation as well, um, which are so sensitive and so not competitive, but just yeah, they're team players, and they're not about the who's the strongest game, you know. So that's just a fun thing to watch, and we're trying to do some rigs that could be coupled, because on that occasion I realized that the team aspect is so valuable.
Yeah, and that could be valuable getting into the helicopter career as well. There's definitely helicopters that are 2-pilot missions, right? So
Yep.
having to kind of understand the crew resource management and working with someone. But I'm also guessing that there's probably other just bigger and greater life lessons when you're, doing something that's a little bit challenging and you're working together to get through it. So walk me through kind of what an 8-hour workshop might look like for these children.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140 plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
That's not planned yet because I'm just so busy running my own profession, my own business. But when I show up with my rig, it's most of the time an 8 to 10 hour day where I'm just trying to reach as many kids as possible. What I would like to have is more the side aspects of aviation, like crew resource management, like I wrote a paper where I discuss or sketch outline all the ideas that I have about the values. If you translate dealing professionally in the aviation business, that could translate to your business as well, and some decisions that you make in life. It's like 50% rule, or learning to say no. Maybe just having a day at a school, one day to have different disciplines at school, like geography, who's dealing with weather, like the mathematicians, they're calculating routes. We have all aspects in the school that could be addressed to have a day with a public service day. We would say a Blaulichttag, the Blurhorn lights, blue in Germany, so we call it Blaulicht. Maybe to have some fire departments show up, some HEMS showing up, trying to cram all this together with a first aid instructions and first aid training to the school kids, and just bringing all the aspects that are discussed within this business, like aeronautical decision making. Why don't you drink and drive? Why don't you drive when you're fatigued? Maybe this is something that makes some youngsters, especially some young men, less prone to taking risks, because most of the people I know, say, okay, we have lost a lot of friends within the age of 20 to 25, and they just did some unhealthy decisions, and they got away with shit maybe for 20 times. One occasion was a girlfriend of a friend of mine died in a car accident. They drove home at night, 3 a.m. from a discotheque, and they just ran over red lights in a crossing because there never comes a car from the right side. Okay, and that's it. So two girls died. The guy who drove the car tried to take his life, and we should know that a male brain, for example, is not fully matured until the age of 30, as a psychologist once said to me. And maybe adapt the we have to adapt the software that's running on the brain so that you could scrutinize all your movements and say, is that a healthy decision? And maybe listen to some people in the rear of the car who say, I'm feeling clumsy running at that speed on a wet street and with some rain on it. And maybe you just have some people less, make them wrap around a tree or do some stupid things that they don't have the chance to regret anymore.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought of connecting aviation and learning about aviation and everything that comes within aviation to helping you maybe develop into a better adult, whether you choose to go into an aviation path or a dentistry path or a business path. For me specifically, I started flying airplanes when I was about 12 years old through a program called the Civil Air Patrol, and an auxiliary of the U.S. Air Force, and you get to go and fly in airplanes, gliders. Really neat program. And I continued flight training through high school. I didn't start helicopters until right after high school. But I look at now how I operate as an adult, and I think that there's some argument that I've, made better decisions in life just based on having a good aviation foundation from a young age. That also being said, I'm kind of an old soul. I've always been maybe a little bit more mature than my counterparts. Growing up, I've always been very cautious. I've always been about thinking about through decisions, and I'm not anti-authority. In fact, I'm the opposite. I don't like getting in trouble. But yeah, there's a lot of parallels in aviation to just being a good person. It's interesting. I don't really talk about it that much. I'm not sure if I've ever talked about it, especially on the podcast. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that, hopefully by engaging kids, young adults and kids into things like you're doing with your simulators and dressing up as a rotor head and things like that, you might inspire some folks to actually become pilots or become engineers for aeronautics or maintenance professionals. But by and large, a lot of those kids might go do something else, but maybe just by creating that foundation, that's a good start. I also think that regarding the Lego and the fact that there's already a large network of young, as you call them, nerds, a large majority of kids that are already engaged in these Lego robotics competitions.
Yep.
And I think that, in the United States, especially, we do have a shortage of pilots, both for airplanes and helicopters. Helicopters probably a little more drastic. Mechanics as well. We don't have great training programs also for mechanics. You go to school to become an airplane mechanic, and then you accidentally become a helicopter mechanic. So that pathway isn't all that well built out. And so I feel like you're right. If you can incorporate aviation themed topics within these Lego competitions, that's a way that you could reach a large scale number of kids and hopefully influence, an increase in just global, from a global standpoint of having more pilots, more mechanics and whatnot. So what would be your vision? What is your vision?
The vision would be to have a few schools here around. Some schools do metalworks. To have some schools in the local area that would build simulator rigs, for example, in a manner that you could compare them, or have, for example, in the big scale, to have the industry like Leonardo and Bell, and you name them all, put their heads together and build a curriculum how to teach some basic stuff about aerodynamics. Maybe they could also do classes on CAD/CAM, and have a competition described how to set up a rig. For example, you have a minimal rig that you could fold together and take it with you in your laptop pocket. Okay, or you build rigs that are easy to combine, and you do a design competition, and the kids build on it, wrench their stuff, tinker their stuff, and at the end of the year, they just show up on locations, or maybe just send in pictures and some design processes of their work, and they get nominated for the best second or third, for example, in designing. And maybe you could have competitions in maths, or flying kids, having kids fly pre-calculated paths, and you go on a competition route, and maybe you could just spread it for the sake of education of kids, to give them orientation, or give them to expose them to stuff that they could say, okay, this is more interesting than just like TikTok or social media. This is real social interaction, and that would be just fabulous. Like I think it's Leonardo that is approaching schools in Italy with a webinar program, and that could be just a nice part. I don't know if I'm participating in the big scale anymore, because I'm very busy with my own praxis. So the major thing today is to bang out the idea of approaching the Lego teams. Maybe they have a side gig producing helicopter rigs, and we'll see what's up next within the next 5 years, if something's changing, because it's not the majority of problems, or it's just one part of the problem. It's badly paid in Germany, big hurdles, and when I reached out in 2015, the first time flying in Germany at a flight school, the flight instructor said it's for R22 it's 24,000 euros, and for R44 it's 35,000 euros, and you have to maintain current flying, and that's just ridiculous. It's just unmanageable for a regular person.
Yeah, it's very expensive. In fact, Europe, it's more expensive, and there's a lot more regulations. So like where I went to flight school in Oregon, where I live on the west coast of the United States, the flight school that I went to was mainly European students. Even though the flight school was in my backyard, the majority of the students there were from Europe. A lot of Germans, a lot of Norwegians, Austrians, people from Sweden, Denmark. I mean, you name it. We were well represented by Europe. And the reason for that is because, Europe is more regulation. General aviation as a whole is just more expensive. There's, I believe, higher taxes on things like fuel and whatnot that just make it harder and harder for these operators to kind of get the mission done. When I was at European Rotors last year, I know that we talked a lot about that, Europe is working with, their regulators, both in government and of course with EASA, to try to make general aviation, civil aviation, specifically helicopters, work better in Europe. It's interesting to see that, someone would have to come all the way to the United States, pay $80,000 to do all their training, go back to Europe, do their EASA certification, and it's still cheaper, to do it that path. So it's interesting. But, I think that European Rotors especially is gaining a lot of energy. It was a very small show for a very long time, and now it's growing, and hopefully, they're kind of fighting for, helicopter and helicopter operations to be cheaper. Pilot pay is a big argument, right? Get these kids interested in flying or working in helicopters only to find out that you can hardly make a living. That's very challenging. So the industry, not just, in Europe or the United States, but really globally, has to really reflect on itself. And I think the United States is a little bit of ahead of the game. It's obviously much cheaper to operate. Our pilot salaries are finally increasing. They're not increasing at the rate that we would see like an airplane pilot, right? If you want to make like a good living, it's better to go and fly airplanes, is the honest truth. So there's so many factors that go into it. And, hopefully as we get more young people involved and they grow into the industry, they can usher in the next generation of fighting for pilot rights and getting paid more and having a better work-life balance. But we're fairly underrepresented, and it's a small industry globally, but it has such a large impact. Helicopters are in every part, that we talk about Legos, right? Like somewhere in the manufacturing life of a Lego brick, there's a helicopter, right?
Sure.
It's a big part of our global economic, workforce or helicopters. So yeah, it starts with getting people interested and then hopefully as an industry, we can do better. Got to get paid more.
This podcast is brought to you by Helicopter. Tired of listings that go nowhere? Exhausted by tire kickers who waste your time? Don't sell your helicopter alone. Helicopter handles the entire process from start to finish. So, if your helicopter has sat too long waiting for a buyer, contact the team at Helicopter today for your complimentary market valuation. Call 1-855-Helicopter, 1-855-735-5226, or email sales@helicopter.com. Helicopter. List it, sell it, done.
Just one thought about Lego. Do you know the big Airbus model of Lego where they built more than 2,000 pieces of Lego helicopter with a working swash plates and a collective? That's just amazing. So somebody in the Lego team and the Lego headquarters must love helicopters. So I think to give it a go and to approach them to apply for a beneficial cooperation, that should be done also via the values, because crew resource management is a big topic in the Lego robotic teams, and also working in a jury. I did not participate in Lego robotics. I was dedicated to be a jury guy, so I got into the Lego robotics mill on the contest side. But there you have to judge how good people work together, how they share their workload, how they specialize, how they discuss things, and I think that's something that you could bring to the table with lots of topics. If I hear, for example, now at the 176th episode of your podcast right now, and I listen to them all, and I can take out of almost every episode something for my work life. If it's trying to figure out if you could stand a board of some people trying to say, okay, you're losing your license to fly because you did stupid things. That applies to me driving in a car. Should I catch up to the guy in the front this close? Should I honk the horn? And or should I just stay laid back? Just culture, for example, never change a running team. Whenever the smallest part of a surgeon or surgic team can identify a mistake that was taught to me by a guy who just who did an operation, a surgery on my knee. He said, for example, if a practitioner is just seeing that somebody's getting unsterile because he's touching a wall, something happens, then he has to speak out with no fear of being punished, so that he should shut up. And that just engraved into my brain, and this is how I do my work. And I think that the problem is you need somebody who's a role model for you, for the youngsters, and you have to bring some superheroes like helicopter pilots. to the game, and so you get people to listen to them. I was fascinated, for example, by the story. This French guy, this French helicopter pilot, retired helicopter pilot, told me when we were in the museum in Dax, and we stood in front of a big painting on the side of the hangar. He said, "Do you know that girl here, that woman here?" And I said, "No, I've been here 7 times, but I didn't read it." Okay, Valérie André. And he just told me stuff about Valérie André, how she started the HEMS, helicopter emergency stuff, whatever. And she was 5 months prior to the U.S. Army with their MASH. And you have on the Quinny Real Rescue podcast, you have episodes with Charles Evans, who wrote this book, Helicopter Heroine. And he's just talking about the history of that and the legacy of that woman who died last year in winter in January at the age of 102. And that was just fascinating. And when my wife approached me to join her Kunst corporation, an exhibition about myths, I thought, okay, what do I have to do with a helicopter concerning myths? And a saving angel is the materialized myth. No, helicopter is the materialized myth of a saving angel. And so you can approach kids with that. You could approach women to join aviation because you get some strong role models like Valérie André or Marie Mavin, but they're just not known to the people. They're not known to helicopter pilots, even female helicopter pilots. And I think that could be somehow turned over into another direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been a lack of representation and as aviation as a whole. And then for women especially, it's even a smaller portion of women feel empowered to become pilots because they don't see those role models. But I think that, podcasts like this, social media profiles, my good friend Annie, her handle Pilot Annie, she's an airplane pilot. She's awesome. She does incredible stuff. And I think people like her are hopefully encouraging the next generation through their social media to maybe become a pilot or give the idea that they can become a pilot. And I think it's important as an industry that we can't just focus on the here and now and what we're doing, but as pilots and business owners within aviation, we should be reaching out to communities and people and children to see how we can help build the next generation. So as we finish up this podcast, that's my call to you, the listener. You guys show up, listen every single week. I'm so appreciative, but you can also share your voice. If you're flying air medical in a small community, maybe do a PR flight to the elementary school and, show the helicopter off. Air medical companies love doing PRs. It's good for business. So that's always a very easy excuse to go and fly and show it to kids. But yeah, don't be afraid to go out there and help support the next generation, just like Matthias is. And he's not even, a helicopter pilot by training. And he's out there trying to help our industry. So Matthias, thank you so much for coming on and sharing what you're doing. And if you're listening to the podcast and maybe you have a child that's expressed interest in aviation, maybe get them involved with some type of Lego robotics. It seems like that would be a good avenue for someone who wants to, learn how to work on things with their hands and build things and potentially even get into aviation. So to our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. Matthias, thank you so much for getting on today and talking about what you're doing.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And to MHM Publishing, thank you so much for creating the HeliCASTS platform. Hopefully platforms like this can help inspire the next generation so we can start turning that shortage around. To our listeners, we'll catch you next time.
Please stay tuned for a final word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Instrom Helicopter Corporation. Instrom Helicopter Corporation welcomes the new 480B Elite to its fleet, fully loaded with all the top-of-the-line features, including Garmin G500H, electric air conditioning, Genesis 3-axis autopilot, exclusive paint and interior, and more. 2025 delivery dates are available, but opportunities are limited. Secure your spot at instromhelicopter.com. Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
This podcast is brought to you by HeliCASTS. Tired of listings that go nowhere? Exhausted by tire kickers who waste your time? Don't sell your helicopter alone. HeliCASTS handles the entire process from start to finish. So, if your helicopter has sat too long waiting for a buyer, contact the team at HeliCASTS today for your complimentary market valuation. Call 1-855-HeliCASTS, 1-855-735-5226, or email sales@helicopter.com. HeliCASTS. List it, sell it, done.